So give me a thumbs up when we're ready. All right, here we are today at August HR Business Services Committee. And this month, representing the Finance Department, we have Simone, who will be in charge moving forward. So welcome.
Thank you.
So let's get started. We have no guest presentations at this meeting, but we will start with our departmental reports, and let's call on Director Severance to go ahead and talk to us about HR.
Thank you. So you'll see on the HR report summary, we have just a few certified and non-certified that'll be coming forward on the agenda. We will, however, have quite a few more in September because, of course, a lot of our hiring that is currently in process, we just haven't put on this list yet. So that will be a big one, I expect. We are working through the implementation of Teachers on Call, and we believe that that will be up and running by the start of the school year. We've been mailing out communications to our sub-pools or people that have subbed for us in the past just to let them know about the transition and encouraging them to go on with Teachers on Call and go through that application process. They had a nice letter that they put together for us, as well as an FAQ for the people to work through. We started using electronic background check service this last month, which has been tremendous. Very quick turnaround. Within a day or two, we're getting those pieces back. And along with putting that in place, we are no longer charging for volunteer backgrounds. In the past, we had been charging anywhere between $10 and $20, I believe, for volunteers. This service, the charge to the district is $7, but we are not passing that along to the volunteers because they are giving us their time. So
that's great equity.
Yeah.
Some just quick benefits updates. I think I had reported last month that our benefits coordinator had resigned, and her last day was actually last Friday. The assistant is working diligently to make sure there is no gaps in service, and we did have interviews last week and are hoping to present an offer early this week to a new benefits coordinator. So moving forward with that. See the hiring updates. Our hiring team has been really busy. We've posted the 201 certified positions and extended offers of those to 168. Paraprofessionals, 110 positions have been posted and extended offers to 80. We still do have a number of openings, as you'll see, and as Superintendent Angus mentioned, he'll be on the news tomorrow talking about staffing challenges. Our biggest areas now are the paraprofessionals, of course, food service, and we will have some maintenance that'll be coming forward too for custodians, hopefully in the near future. Our second to last contract, Ymca, will be coming for the board approval next week because we did get a vote count for them. And then we just have one contract left in negotiations, and we did have a mediation session in late July. We are just finalizing that proposal so that they can bring it forward to their bargaining unit for a vote, hopefully end of this month, early next month.
Great. Are there any questions? Even though we're down, even though we have 201 certified positions posted and we have about 168 where we've extended offers, we're still feeling comfortable that we will have what we need when school starts. We might not be where we're perfect, but we'll have what we need.
Yeah, I believe for certified positions, we will definitely have what we need. The part of it's just the timing of internal transfers and then the next post that comes along, so we should be fine there. We did do an elementary pool hiring this year, so we have five people for elementary school just kind of waiting to be assigned.
Right.
So we know that we should be fully staffed hopefully by the beginning of the school year, but there's always those last minute ones that'll come along. I would say the paraprofessionals, we should have a good portion of them filled. And we've struggled, I think, over the last several years to be fully staffed, but we're confident that we have enough to make it work. And then with the sub combination, hoping that we can have a full.
And then just for my own thought process, we know that the supervisory, the paraprofessionals in the high schools and the middle schools are kind of some of the hardest jobs to fill. Are we going to be staffed to what we need to for Denfeld and Lincoln Park and Ordine and East with those paraprofessionals when school starts, so we can hopefully transition into a very smooth start of the school year? Do you feel like?
I think we will be in a better place than we were last year.
Okay.
But I would not say it will be perfect. I think that we will continue to have, and that's part of the reason why the national story tomorrow is because it's all over trying to find food service, special education paras, bus drivers, but especially those special education paras. We are going to be working diligently behind the scenes to make sure that those positions are filled.
Okay.
And I would say that according to Director Crane and Director Severance, we're in a considerably better spot than we were last year.
Awesome, that's what I need to hear. Great. Any other questions? All right, thank you so much. Let's move on to our finance department report. That will be verbal, Simone.
I'm really, I'm not presenting any numbers this month as we will be starting our audit. They will be coming on site a week from today, starting field work, and they'll be here in August, September, and October for a week each time. And then, of course, they do a lot of off-site work, but we in the department are preparing for it. So we're deep into audit work right now.
And this is our outside audit, what we'll have them,
That
they
is
come
correct.
back and do the presentation at
December-ish.
December, yeah,
Yeah.
like it feels
Yeah.
wintry when they do that. Okay,
Yes.
great. Thank you. Questions?
Just a comment I would like to say, Simone worked on things very much behind the scenes last year with the audit process, and I think that your skill and expertise really shined there as far as not only being able to accomplish that, but also seeing some systemic ways that we can improve things for the coming year. So that will be good.
I guess I have a general question of with the absence of our old fearless leader, is the finance department stable and managing? I'm absolutely positive you guys had a great plan in place to keep going forward and that kind of stuff. Is there, do you have what you need to be successful?
As of today, yes.
Okay.
I'm very hands-on. They come in and ask me questions. So today I feel like we're still working and doing what we do.
Okay.
They're very well with the machine. They know what they're doing. They're good at what they do. And we have excellent processes in place. So we'll just follow that for now, and then, down the road,
Okay.
things may be different.
And I would say that with that said, we are more or less operating under the system we're proposing with hopes that the board will approve that system so basically we're hoping that the board will still approve what we're putting forward. And secondly, similar to when Director Severance took over as the Director of Human Resources, she had to assess that department internally a little bit. So once you have your arms completely around it, as I mentioned previously, there may be a request for a specialist position that would be something similar to an auditor or an accountant type
Yes.
position.
Good to know. Thank you, Rick.
Any other questions? Great. We'll move on to number 3 under our business services update for the enrollment report, and those will start in October 2022 once we have our scholars back in the building. So we'll look forward to that in October. The next report is our child nutrition departmental report. You can see the child nutrition report attached on board book. You can see that we're doing a lot of meals for breakfast and lunch for all of our students. So that's great. There's also some work that's being done looking for job applicants to fill our food service. So if you're looking for a job, please come work for us. It's not like Adam Sandler and Lunch Lady anymore. It's much more like cooler. Nobody will get that. Okay, this is great to hear. Vegan-free and reduced lunch free and reduced lunch applications for the new year, encouraging all to apply. This is different because we will not be having free lunch this year, so those food and reduced lunch applications are very important. Okay, and then lastly, just to talk about our price increases. So currently, in elementary for lunch, it's $2.60 for elementary and $2.85 for secondary. This year, we are proposing to raise the prices for $2.70 to elementary and $2.95 for secondary.
Do we know if the price for an adult to get a lunch is going to go up or not yet? As, adults buy food when they're in school.
I don't think we know that yet.
I don't, but I can find out.
But, and actually on Wednesday we have our check-in, that would be a good idea for us to snacks there.
I know as a school board member, if I'm there at lunch, I might tend to pick one up.
There was a request that I had from a couple of summer school employees about maybe being able to provide lunches for employees, particularly during summer school, which isn't always seen as currently, when people are exhausted, desirable time to work. I also know that in other districts, sometimes people have added, lunch for benefit for substitute teachers, or potentially maybe we would want to consider it for professionals potentially, just because it's something that we would be able to give
I
people a little
love
boost.
that. I love that idea. I've suggested it in the past, so I'm on board.
We can explore that further.
Great, any other questions? Awesome, we're gonna move on to the Facilities Department report. Mr. Spooner?
Thank you, Member Heater. July was a real good month. We're working hard. We've completed 126 work orders and have 217 open work orders. As you're probably aware, if you've driven near Denfeld, the tower work is progressing well. We're probably, I'd say, getting to the 2/3 point. We're restoring clock base, clock hands, brick, limestone. It's coming along really nice. It's a challenging project, as I mentioned, but it's coming along good. Congdon Park window project is about 3/4 of the way done. From the exterior, when school starts, the windows will be in, metal on, caulking, be completely done from the outside, but we will have to work. And I've talked to the principal, and we are going to work on breaks, and she's going to rotate classrooms. There will be some trim work that we have to get done after school starts, but they'll be in, they'll be thermally broken, it'll be warm, just trim work that's going to be left to be done. The sped bathroom at Denfeld construction began, and we're having a difficult time finding tile setters, so it's slowed down a bit, but it will be done approximately in October timeframe. The PSS track lane 1 bonding remediation is now at the bonding agent. We have our attorney and their attorneys working on it, and we're in the process of sending roughly 800 documents for review, 800 attachments and emails that I've worked with technology to get downloaded, and it's a challenge. Construction tasks on the hill. It is really going impressive. The facilities building is in the 90% range done. The precast plank and steel for the DSC are going up. They're looking really well. And footings are poured right now for the transportation building, and precast and steel will be going up on that possibly this week or starting next week. In the building operations area, they've been performing an excellent job with summer cleaning. Buildings are looking good. We do have 17 vacancies still in the custodial operation ranks, and I'm working closely with Teresa and Human Resources, and we're looking at all options to fill those vacancies. Under the health and safety and environmental management, we had some inspections, life safety inspections, grant arranged for Alice training. We have a chemical audit and SDS update in August, which is a update of chemicals that are in each building, and updated ERCM, and progress on finding or updating the bloodborne pathogen and employee right to know written programs. And the work comp activities are self-explanatory, and I'll open it up for questions at that point.
Will we be getting a tour of the new facilities?
That was actually my next question, because
Superintendent Magus and I have been talking, and he may have some ideas that we can do.
yeah, we were hoping to schedule tours, and actually we're thinking like for maybe the second or third weekend in August, so coming up shortly. We also were gonna have a little, hopefully have a little barbecue or something like that for the staff here, and have a couple buses touring people through so they can just get a look at things and
Okay,
get a sense of where things are.
I like that.
So, we could, Dave, if you, or sorry, Mr. Spooner, if you could check on what times might work well, and we can get that set up.
Well, I've talked to Steve Johnson already. I actually worked with him on tours for the media once the demolition starts occurring. And we can follow the same routes and the same process for whenever you determine a date of what you'd like to do, but he's hoping it could be between 10 and 12 in a day, because they're pretty busy and
Is the school board gonna be included in the media tour? Or-
I don't think anybody would be excluded.
Well, you can't be excluded if we don't know about it, I guess.
It'll be publicized. Adele's working on that, and I think
Okay.
she indicated that it was going to be open for, DNT, the local TV stations.
I wouldn't be surprised if we got some renewed interest, given the subject of our last meeting, to do some, there may be interest in having some interviews up there in the next day or two.
Right.
And I guess my last question is, I know we talked a lot about the DSC and the facility building, and is the transportation building started yet, or when does that,
Yes, as I mentioned earlier in my report, the footings are poured,
right?
and steel and precast are going to start this week or next week. And they go quick. If you probably haven't been up there, but when they start standing precast, it goes from nothing to looking like a building really quick, but then it kind of slows down as you put your plank in and you pour your floor and start utilities and wiring and plumbing, and so it goes slow, goes fast, goes slow, it's up and down.
Is that scheduled to finish about the same time as the DSC, or is it on a
Correct.
separate time?
I'll estimate June of next year for DSC transportation facilities to be ready.
So our school bus drivers are gonna have to stay off the hill for another year for the school year?
Right.
Okay.
Other questions? Thank you, Mr. Spooner. All right, moving on to Bart's turn. There he is. Bart, are you ready for technology department?
Yeah, for the July report.
Yeah.
Our email numbers were down, both in receiving, accepting, as well as spam, phishing, and spoofing. Just because there's so many, staff that are out this summer. Account information has gone up. And the reason why it went up is we received 1,912 consent forms, 230 consent forms from our students. That's why the count went up. Our storage is down, which makes sense because the staff are out. File sharing is down as well. Suspicious logins is down. Failed login attempts is down. The only thing that went up is data loss prevention. I think last month was 8 and this one was 95. So those were all blocked and identified, so that's good. The E-rate bids and RFPs are the same as last month. I haven't gotten those out yet. Working with Tony on those. Our technology help desk tickets, the new tickets are down. Resolved tickets are down now. Remaining unresolved tickets are up. We have done some Chromebook repairs, so that went down. The response times are both up. The reason for that is we have a lot of, most of my staff are all on imaging and doing a lot of stuff in the cybersecurity renewal. So they have to concentrate on doing that. The projects are the same as last month. I'm still going around imaging all the computers, comply with the cyber insurance policy, and deploying new desktop computers for the possible. That is my report.
Thank you. Are there questions? Great, thank you, Bart. Oh, I know what I was gonna ask you quickly. So we are making headway in what we need to do for our cyber insurance. Are we caught up with what we need to do to hold our end of the bargain for our cyber insurance?
We have our training coming out in our phishing, so that'll be starting this September. That's one of our requirements. We have that. We have to remove all that software. Like I said, our guys are doing that. They did most of it last month. There's still a few computers of the imaging across the district. And then I don't know if I shared last month, but we got all the questionnaires for next year's requirements. We went from 26 requirements or questions they had to went to 46 now.
To 46.
46, so there's a lot more requirements, so we are gonna start working on that.
Okay.
10 months in advance as opposed to the 2 months we had, so they were real nice to share that with us and say, hey, here's what we're looking at for next year for your renewal.
Perfect, so we're already preparing for next year.
Yep, we're already working on it.
Great, that's great to hear, Barb, we appreciate it. Any other questions? Awesome, thank you. Moving on to transportation. I always like to point this out. 14 trips in July and 30 so far scheduled for August for bus trips. I know that it's getting close to school, so I'm sure that they are getting ready for our many bus routes that need to be built. So Keegan Eater will be on one of those buses. The only question I had about this was on the transportation report. It says ELFT is still and will likely continue to be troublesome for some time. ELFT? Anybody know what that means?
I can reach out to Steve.
Will you just let me know? That would be great. I like to know if it's gonna be troublesome what I'm dealing with. All right. They're still waiting on one engine for replacements. The 2 bus orders should be approved, and then they're going to implement Transversa for routing in November through December. And that's everything for transportation. Does anybody have any questions?
I do. Yeah. Imagine that.
What is ELFT?
Oh, my question actually has to do with our unity in the community thing. Are you gonna have like a school bus there for kids to climb on and for kids that come in, that kind of thing?
We, climb on as in something.
As like
fun.
come and sit in?
We haven't thought about that part, but we do have transportation. But I think that, that might be something that would be of interest.
Yeah, we can consider that. So Steve has been part of that planning, so I'll work with Steve on
Just seems
that
to make
this
sense.
coming Thursday.
It's a symbol of school, so.
Maybe we could have older high school kids sit in the driver's seat and then fill out an application.
There you go.
Just
Good
saying.
idea,
It's a
though.
recruiting tool, there we go.
Right.
HR can be in there too.
I would imagine some of our younger students would love to get on the bus just
Yeah.
to.
That's a good idea.
Absolutely, yeah, especially, you know, new kindergartners and things like that, but.
And you kind of take some of the scariness out of it or something.
Yeah, and maybe some bus safety flyers or, you know, you could start showing that video that everybody has to watch in elementary school about bus safety.
That's a scary one.
Big wheels on wheels.
Right, any other questions? Awesome, all right, now let's move on to our recommended resolutions, and we will have 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll have HR 822-3905, and that's the, how do you say it?
Dewea.
Dewea, right,
Yeah.
okay, Dewea union contract, and hopefully we'll have that by the meeting
Yep, I'll email it out on Friday.
on Friday, perfect. And then we have HR 8-22, we don't have that one, we will have, that resolution will have a number by the time. But this one is for employment of a school board member by the district. The state recently changed the statute, so board members have the ability to be employed by a district, but not to be exceeded in $20,000 for that separate position,
Yes.
correct? And it went up from like
8,000.
8,000. So the change in this resolution has to do going from 8,000 to 20,000.
We also, through the policy committee, we're bringing forward a new policy that reflects that new language as well. So that will come forward, the board, the regular school board meeting, so that it's ensconced in policy.
In policy, awesome, great. So we have 3 school board members, Joe, Alana, and Paul. Member Lofeld, member Oswald, and member Sample.
Well, we all could theoretically.
Theoretically,
Because
yeah.
you don't have to be a teacher. You could sub as a parent.
I could sub as
Or
a
sub
parent.
in the kitchen or on the playground.
Or coach something.
Right.
Coach something, right? The next resolution we have is B-8-22, and we'll have a number by the time the school board. This is authorizing a development agreement with the Duluth Economic Development Authority regarding Central on the Hill property for proposed tax increment district, and you can go ahead and read that. That's available attached to our board book. Are there any questions? Right. then lastly, we have our acceptance of donations to the Duluth Public Schools, which is B-8-22 XXX, and you can go ahead and look at several donations that the district has received. Any questions on that?
I would like to thank the person that gave 19 cents to the Lincoln Park Choir.
119.19.
But there's that 19 cents in there, got there somehow.
Every penny helps.
Every penny helps. That's awesome. All right, next, as part of, so those resolutions we just talked about, we will vote on those separately at the school board meeting. Now we're gonna move into our consent agenda where we have, our HR staffing report, which you can find starting on page 16, 16 and 17. And then what we're gonna be talking about next is a job description for the Executive Director of Finance and Business Services. You can find that on board book or on page 18 as part of the agenda.
I have a question about that. Is it possible to get copies of the old descriptions so we can see what changed or get this highlighted
So
difference?
these are new job descriptions, so there
Okay, so
isn't
they're not-
revision, but they
Okay.
are loosely based on some previous duties with some duties added, so I can,
Are they replacing other job descriptions?
no, they're just being
Okay.
created, and then you'll see further the contracts as interim positions for,
I'm sorry.
So we'll actually have a job description for an interim position?
yes.
Got it,
We're
okay.
discussing the two interim positions.
Yeah, but if you'd like, I can send you those that they're loosely driven from, because there is a
I'm
lot of
okay
to
with
it,
that.
actually. But they are new and not revised, so they're not
That makes
permanently
sense.
revised.
Okay.
But I feel, and I apologize for stepping up in that quick call, but I feel very comfortable in the positions. I think that they create a structure that is workable and supportive of our student and staff needs. And I also have been very impressed with the capacity of the two individuals that will fill those positions.
All right. Did they have input into some of their jobs?
They were voluntold. No, just kidding. They actually had quite a bit of input. We had a lot of conversation around
Okay.
what it would look like. We wanted to make sure that we're all functioning as a cohesive collective team as opposed, so even though, you know, Simone might be doing, you know, Simone might be would be supervising food service, we also know that there's a lot of nutritional service questions that might be HR related or might be related to something that I need to work with as well. So facilities, for instance, or technology, both of those positions there's a lot of tie to finance. I want to make sure that there's a tight connection there, but that there's that collective supportive synergy amongst the department.
Thank you for that.
And I'm assuming that this Executive Director of Human Resources and Operations job description is in response to these, the direct reports being split between
Yes.
the Executive Director of Finance and of Human Resources.
Yes,
Okay,
and the director or the manager of technology will be reporting to Mr. Bonds as a part of the structure as well.
okay.
Saw that, saw that?
Are there any questions? All right.
So I will also be sending those, copies of those individual contracts when I send out the DUIA
Individual contracts for
these new
positions.
Yeah, so
Okay.
I'll send that all in an email on Friday with all 3 of the contracts attached.
Okay, perfect. All right. Okay, so we have looked at the 4 items that have to do with staffing for our consent agenda. Next, we move on to finance. So the financial report for July, that's gonna happen after the audit. So do we start seeing those after the audits from the outside, or will that,
Well, we usually start presenting those last year, my first year, it was October.
is it October?
Yes.
Okay.
Because accounts payable, payroll will be done, and then we'll stop paying bills for last year, and then we'll get you a good number.
Okay, let me
Okay.
just, once I figure out where I'm at, okay. Oh, it's the paper right in front of me. So these will start again in October.
Correct.
Okay. All right.
Christmas.
Coming up next then, for business, for finance, we're gonna have 2 items, approval of interim director of HR and operations. Teresa, you can approve HR invoices not to exceed 25,000. This is an increase from 5. Assistant Superintendent Anthony Bonds, these purchases, you can approve invoices and purchases not to exceed 50,000. This came from 25. And last, approval of interim executive director of finances and business services. Simone can go from 1,000 to 100,000. So
Big winner.
a rise of 100% or something.
We just want to be transparent with all of our approvals.
Yeah, absolutely. We appreciate that.
What's the reason for increasing these? I mean, 1 to 100,000 is a lot.
Well,
So,
go ahead.
go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say the previous executive director that she approved contracts up to 100,000, and then the superintendent approves above that.
Kathy had 100,000.
So with her taking on a role similar to
Oh, I see, okay.
the CFO piece, it's extending that. And then also, like, authorization for 5,000 or lesser amounts for a district of our size. It doesn't give much authority to those individuals being able to make a decision. This is commensurate with what levels are in districts of similar size for the position.
So I have a question about that. Isn't it by resolution that the superintendent can only sign things up to 100,000?
Yep.
And otherwise you need board approval, so she's just as powerful as you now.
Well, I'm still her boss,
Right.
as are you mine.
Thank you.
Right?
These are our transparent layers.
Yeah, right. All right. Any other questions? Okay. No.
Well, I guess I have one more. If John or Superintendent Megas, are
Yes.
you always aware of large purchases anyway? I mean, do you keep track of that?
I'm aware of everything. No, actually, it's been interesting in serving in kind of the interim role myself for a month or so, because seeing the variety of purchase orders that come through, Dave and I met periodically, because it's one thing to approve something for $1,000 or a couple $1,000, but when you're getting
Couple million.
when you're getting something that's $500,000 or a couple million, I've made sure that we're anything that's over 4 digits, that we're having a
Okay,
conversation on it so that I know what's going on.
thank you for that reassurance.
I would say I'm quite aware.
Okay. Well, I just wanted
But not
to
aware of
remind you that
everything.
as the board's sole employee, you're the one responsible, so.
Exactly, which is part of the reason. I want to make sure that we're really being very, very careful about our finances, and at the same time allowing for some freedom within fences decision-making for the people that are responsible for making those decisions as well. Sure.
Great. So next we have no fundraisers, no bids, RFPs, and quotes. And next we have a couple contracts and change orders and leases to talk about. The first one is the contract with the Duluth Area Family YMCA. We had a great whatever on this at the Committee of the Whole presentation on this grant at the Committee of the Whole meeting for this month, so go ahead and take a look at that. This is to provide, using ESSER funding, a variety of after-school and support programs for our students. Any questions? Excellent. Moving on, we have a lease with Northwoods Merritt Creek for 2022 to 2025. You can take a look at this attached to board book. Are there any questions? Okay. We have some district property updates. Mr. Spooner, do you want to talk about these?
Typically, we just let people read through them, and I
Okay.
don't really read the whole document, but if people have questions, certainly ask. We've included some pictures.
Yeah, these are great pictures.
So there's finally something to look at.
To look at, there's pictures.
Right.
Questions? There is a note, a letter in here from Mr. Fulmer talking about central entrance and central on the hill property. Next, we have, do we have any no cost contracts? I'm sorry, I don't think I printed that out correctly. Can you tell me what they are?
It's just two.
Yeah, okay. Thank you so much.
It's two. Yeah, CW Superior and SOAR Career Solutions.
Oh, perfect. Our two no-cost contracts are UW Superior and SOAR Career Solutions. Perfect. We have no revenue, thank you so much. We have no revenue contracts this month, and we have grants. Oh, did I skip over expenditure? I'm sorry, we have expenditure contracts. Also, we talked about our no cost contracts, we have no revenue contracts, and then we have grant applications.
There's just
And there's just one grant application from the Ordine Foundation for school libraries for Duluth residential and treatment schools, $26,000. Oh, that's great. We have to gotta make sure and talk about that one. Are there any questions? All right.
We can go back to the placeholder of the SRO contract.
Oh, yes, let us go back to the placeholder. We need to go back to D3, City of Duluth School Resource Officers placeholder.
And we are still working with the city on the school resource officer contract. We have reached agreement related to the language changes. So that is, there was substantive language changes. The finances, however, we are currently at an impasse where we are, we've made an offer of a 21% increase in cost over the course of the next 3 years, which is considerably more than we were considering. And so we're continuing to have that dialogue with the police department, but it does appear that we're at a financial impasse there as far as the request. We will be sharing more information with the board in the near future.
Okay. So just to reiterate, or just to, so my understanding is correct, so the contract between the City of Duluth Police Department and the ISD 709, we have agreed on the contract and with addition of language changes that we came through our work with Marnita's table.
That's correct.
Where we're having the difficulty is figuring out the financial piece. We're offering 21% over 3 years.
Yes, so 7% increase each year for the next 3 years.
Okay.
And that is not being accepted at this point as their final offer, and so that was our final offer, so we'll see where we go. But I just wanted to be transparent about that.
What is what is our plan? Are we thinking about contingencies and?
We're thinking about contingencies, and we also want to make sure that the board is aware that we're at this point of needing to consider potential alternatives as well.
Okay,
But we'll share more.
all right, and we'll have more information on that at this
Yes.
August school board meeting.
Yes.
Perfect.
And this, if not sooner.
If not
And
sooner.
this was information that came forth late in the afternoon today, so
Okay.
I apologize that it's not a full ready to share thing, but I wanted to make sure that since it's on there as a placeholder, I didn't want to not address where we're at.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? All right, thank you. We will adjourn this meeting at 6:20 whatever today.